Great morning, great morning, great morning. It is 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on WDRBmedia.com, guys. One of the greatest shows in the world is about to come on. The It's About You radio show, hosted by me, Maurice McDonald, your host. I have the privilege, honor, and pleasure each and every Tuesday morning here on WDRB Media to share this information designed to get into your heart, into your ears, into your mind, and hopefully into your legs that will cause you to move and take action. Don't talk about it, be about it. And each and every Tuesday morning, this platform, I was given this by my creator. Those of you know my story. 40 years ago, wanted to go into radio broadcasting as a young man and had to go through 45 years of 3 different careers, and God brought radio back to me. And boy, I can tell you, I do not take this lightly. I don't take it for granted. It is an honor, as I say, and a privilege each and every morning to come here. And you know, when this came to me, I was not expecting it. I was not looking for it. I didn't. As a matter of fact, I thought it was a scam. I thought there was no way somebody's reaching out to me to interview me for about radio. I didn't believe it. And boy, was I wrong. It is not a scam, ladies and gentlemen. My God's got a sense of humor. My God's got timing. My God's got everything I need. And I'm here each and every Tuesday morning to share this amazing information on a show called It's About You. Because so many times people say, it's not about you. Well, guess what? I flipped that thing. It's called It's About You. The quality of your mind, the integrity of your soul, and the determination of your will determine your future and change your life. That is a quote by the late, great Dr. Benjamin Mays, former president of Morehouse College. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm feeling it this morning. And because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I know somebody's having breakfast. Someone's at work. Someone is sitting in the office, or someone just sitting home and they're listening. And again, I hope that I'll get the chance to say something to you that's going to inspire you to the greatness that you were created for. And because it's 8 o'clock in the morning, I always start with my morning quote of the day. My morning quote of the day, obviously, is coming from Mark Twain. Mark Twain said that pretty much he says, your eyes cannot focus on what your imagination is viewing. So in other words, your imagination is one place, but your eyes cannot comprehend because your imagination is out of focus. Can you imagine what it's like when your imagination, you see, oftentimes our imagination is so crystal clear. No, I don't want a crystal clear imagination. I want it out of focus, because when it's out of focus, that means I can go to greater heights. My job is to get it focused, but it's so far out there, I can't see it yet. Just like this radio for me, I couldn't see it. I wanted it, but I did not have a direction at 19 or 20 years old. I wasn't ready for it, but my imagination was there. Wanted to go into radio, television, broadcasting, Hunter College, Manhattan, New York City, 18, 19 years old, listening to the radio late at night, WBLS. Some of you could understand what I'm talking about, WBLS, Frankie Crockett. Listening to that late at night on the radio, and it was birthed into me. The imagination that one day I was going to be on the radio. You know, and I kept saying it to myself, I'm going to be on the radio one day. I'm going to do this. Then I went to the Carolinas for the broadcasting. And, you know, I wasn't ready yet. So my creator took me to another way. But you see, the imagination was still there. I put it on a back burner. I thought it was finished. Walt Disney, they told him he had no imagination. They told Walt Disney he was horrible. Hello, created Disney World. Can you imagine? $1 billion industry now. So my point to you is having that focus in your imagination is not a good thing. Keep it cloudy, but you keep pushing toward it. And now look, 40 some years later, my creator brought radio. Oh my gosh. And so I'm letting you know that Mark Twain pretty much talks about your imagination needs to be out there when that should be tied to your faith. So that has been your morning quote of the day, brought to you by MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net. Go there and learn all about your amazing gut microbiome, because all disease begins in the gut. Go there, log on, take a look at it, email me, let me know what you think. My information's there. You can find me. Guys, listen, today, this morning, I want you to know, I often say, I ask my creator, what should I talk about many times? Or there's a conversation with someone that I may have that will lead me to my next topic or something that's really powerful to talk about. And about 5 days ago, I was driving down the highway and I saw a billboard. And, billboards are designed to get your attention first. It's a form of media. And I love billboards. I love the media. Anything about radio or television, marketing, advertising, I'm all for. But I saw this. It was a law firm that was advertising their business. And they said something about untying the knots. Said, we will untie the knots for you. And they had a nice ribbon there, and it was kind of in a knot, so to speak. And I kept driving by seeing it, and it wouldn't let me go. And then I thought about all the situations in our lives, that may have knots that are in our lives, emotionally, socially, spiritually. So I'm starting a new series today on untying the knots. Untying the knots. And I know that's a kind of a out of the bounds topic, whatever, but I'm going to go there with it because I've talked about it, prayed about it a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, this is something that I looked at my own life. There were a lot of knots in my life. And I kept thinking, my creator helped me untie those knots. And some of those knots I caused. Hello. So with that said, today I want to start it off with untying the knots. And then next week we'll go a different direction with still in that same thing, I believe. But so the first point to untying the knot, number one, is notice the knot before you pull it tighter. You see, you got to notice the knot first. See the knot. Most knots in life get worse because we react on autopilot. Awareness is the first thing to loosening or moving. Awareness of it. See it first. It's like this. I can't change anything I don't recognize. I can't change anything I don't acknowledge. The alcoholic cannot change their circumstances or their condition until they admit and recognize they're an alcoholic. A person who's overweight, out of shape, can't lose the weight, can't get in shape until they first acknowledge, I'm out of shape. I don't like where I am now. I'm tired of this medication. I'm tired of being sick and tired. They must first acknowledge it. First, notice the knot before you pull it tighter. Now, oftentimes people will continue to pull it tighter because I've always done things this way. That's just who I am. That's just how I see it. And yeah, okay. And it also is important to know, I want to say right now, along the same idea, the perfect timing for me to see that billboard about untying the knot was also being a part of a Zoom the other night with my church, and also being there. It was a leadership. All the people on there were leaders of a department, and they went through some major training and talking about things, how to get better and everything else, that's happening. And along with that same line, there were so many things that were said. When I finished, I said, oh my gosh, thank you, God. You just tied this to my topic, some of the things they said. So I'll be sharing a couple of things that was shared that was just so powerful. And one of the first things I want to share that was on that Zoom that was talking about it, and I think it ties in good with this very first one. Notice the knot before it's tighter. And that is, every weekend is the Super Bowl. Now I know people love the football, and all the teams push toward that one game. The ultimate game is two teams getting together, and one will win the Super Bowl. That's what it's called, and they're called champions. And so they start early. They've been playing ball all their life. They've been going to practice as a little kid, fighting through injuries, going to college, making it, and then getting fortunate enough to make it to the NFL to play, and then be fortunate enough to be on a team of people, hear me, a team of like-minded people, and they make it to the Super Bowl. Well, you see, here's the thing. In order to get to the Super Bowl, you got to play each play at practice like it is a Super Bowl. You don't get to the Super Bowl practicing sloppy. You don't get to the Super Bowl late for practice. You don't get to the Super Bowl making excuses at the practice. You don't get to the Super Bowl using drugs or smoking and doing all overeating. You don't get to the Super Bowl not being a super person, a person committed to it. You got to notice, like I said, notice the knot before it gets tighter. You got to notice how I show up to practice, how I show up. Am I a person that listens to the coach? Am I teachable? Am I coachable? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this show is going to be fire. I'm letting you know this right now because every weekend is the Super Bowl. You can't take a play off. You just can't take off. You can't tank. You can't not show up because you'll never get to the Super Bowl if you don't play like a Super Bowl. You got to play like a champion to become a champion. So you see, every weekend is the Super Bowl. And that is part of noticing the knot before it gets tighter. You see, oftentimes you show up in life with excuses. You can't get to the Super Bowl making excuses. You can't untie that knot by making excuses, pulling it tighter, because that's how I am. I've always been this way. Most knots in life get worse because we act on autopilot. You can't operate on autopilot. You got to stay laser focused on what you're doing. Yes, so that awareness is the first thing to loosening that mood. Awareness of how I show up. Because some knots you create. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, but this whole idea of those knots in our lives and knots sometimes just cause confusion. Now, also, because there is a knot doesn't mean you failed. That means you cared. Now, because you have a knot does not, that's my second point. Because you have a knot does not mean you failed. They mean you cared. You do care. You're pushing toward this. Relationships, careers, and dreams only get tangled when we invest in them. You see, think about this. There are people making excuses and money. No, they don't go together. They want to make excuses and make money. You can't be broke and skeptical. Somebody bring you an opportunity and you broke and you got the nerve to be skeptical. You're creating a knot for yourself. You failed. It's okay. Failing is all right. It just means you do care. Relationships, careers, and dreams only get tangled when we invest in them. You see, when you get the knot, it is okay. But there's a way. Every knot can be unloosened. Let me go ahead and say that. Every knot in your life can be untangled. It's going to take time for some of it. It's going to take some patience from you. It's going to take you, going through some frustration and all kinds of things that go through your life. It's going to be sometimes a knot's there to test you. The knot can be there to test you. It doesn't mean that you failed. You have to get this idea in your head that you're supposed to win automatically. I love people when I hear somebody who going back to the Super Bowl, when somebody sees this player or this team, they've got great success. And you think that this statement is, or somebody was an overnight success. What you don't see is like Muhammad Ali, the great Muhammad Ali said, I train in the dark so I can live in the ring under the lights like a champion. See, he was up at 4 a.m. running. 5:30 in the morning, he's running. Eating properly. It's a process what he's going through. So you look and say, oh, they're great overnight success. But they've been training for 15 years. No, they're a 15-year overnight success. That's how that works. So don't think because you failed is a bad thing. See, the knot doesn't mean you failed, but they mean that you cared. You cared enough to put in the work. You cared enough to do the work in school. You cared enough to sacrifice. You cared enough to work 2 jobs and go to school. and you learn a trade. You learn several trades. You got your regular 9 to 5, but on the side, you're making more money than your regular job. The job just provides your benefits. By the way, your job was never designed to fulfill your life. Your job is somebody else's dream. You're on their team. You're making their dream. They're just paying you enough to pay a few bills. But it was never designed. And people always thought, and that's another knot people have, that my job, this one job, was supposed to pay all my bills. And when inflation comes in, they're supposed to, no. See, that you got that confused. You listen, by the way, going to school, I have 3 college degrees, but let me tell you something. The biggest scam ever is to go to school and get a bunch of college degrees. Yeah. Ooh, can you believe I said that? And I'm an educator, but I'm letting you know, you gotta have something on the side that you're building your dreams. Because a paycheck is what they give you to help you forget your dreams. Come on. I want a good job with good benefits, government state job with benefits, and I want to be off on Mondays and Fridays, and they're going to give me a pay raise, and I'm going to get... No. Whoever the CEO is, a multimillionaire, you are there as an employee. You are just a number, and they know that only a certain amount they're going to pay you. They're not to fulfill your dreams. So get out of that knot of the financial dreams, thinking that they're going to provide everything for you. They're not. So the first point I said was notice the knot before you pull it tighter. Secondly, I said knots don't mean you fail. They mean you cared. My third point, stop yanking. Gentle attention works better. You start yanking on that knot, guess what happens? It may get tighter. But gentle attention, you see, unloosen that knot requires a little bit at a time. You start to figure it out first. Let's get a strategy. You start thinking, idea of focusing, solutions often tightens the problem, or forcing, should I say. You're trying to, force the solution only makes it tighter, make the problem worse. Small, calm steps untangle faster. Getting a strategy a little bit at a time to get you to easily get that knot out. And once you get a little pull on it, you can start to work on it. It's important. Number one, that you do not take this lightly, and you do not yank. Stop trying to yank and force things and have a temper tantrum and fight and struggle and curse words and all other kind of things that you may be going through. Realizing that you need to take some time, be patient, gentle works. Be patient with it, I've said. Do not get caught up in your emotions. Let me tell you something. Emotions will make your knot tighter. If you start getting in your emotions and your feelings and saying crazy stuff, acting crazy, blaming other people, listen, all that does is create things worse. How many people on their jobs, they didn't like the job. They saw the job as a knot. Bad supervisor with it. And you go in there and go off, curse the supervisor out. Now, what you just done is you can't use them as a reference anymore. Let me pause. I want you to think about that. How many people do you know have gone into situations, got verbal, got in their emotions, their feelings, went off on the job? You've been there 10 years. You apply for another job and use that as a reference. What was the last thing you left them with? The impression you left them with was, you're an idiot. You're emotional. And trust me, they're going to say that. I tell my students, you can hate my guts. It's okay. You may not like me. And I've had students say, Mr. McDonald, I don't like you, but I'm learning. All I cared was that you're learning. It wasn't about liking me. And I always let them know, relationships are important. You could be a smart student, you can be everything else that's going, but relationship, what do people say about you behind your back, especially when it comes to employment? So keep this in mind. Stop yanking. Gentle attention works a whole lot better to make things better for you, to get that knot out. So those of you just joining us right now, we're here talking about knots. We're talking about tying the knots, guys. Untying them. The knots in your life. We said the first one was notice the knot before you pull tighter. Secondly, I said knots don't mean you fail. Thirdly, I just said stop yanking. Gentle attention works better. Stop trying to force the situations in your life. That is important. And also, along that same line too, I want you to think about this. Stop blaming God because of the things that happen in your life that create a knot. Stop blaming God for that. Oftentimes, the Creator saw you. He saw what you were doing, what you were attempting to do. And maybe people even told you, hey, you might not want to do that. You didn't take time for clarity. You just started yanking and doing things, operating in your emotions and your feelings. Stop doing that. My next point. Some knots are emotional, not logical. Oh my goodness. Some knots are emotional, not logical. You can't think your way out of everything. Some things need to be felt, named, or grieved. Ooh, let me say that one more time. You can't think your way out of everything. Some things need to be felt. It has to be named or grieved. Because again, if you created some of this, some knots are emotional. Emotions, first of all, God gave us emotions. Emotions are powerful. We need emotions. And let me say this to my brothers. Stop saying women are emotional, because there's nothing more emotional on planet Earth than a man. Okay? Men are very emotional, but don't think so. Think women are emotional. Yeah. I mean, behind your muscles, behind our facade, we're little boys who get hurt sometimes. Inside, and we carry it, and you can't drink enough liquor, and you can't do enough things to come out of that. But some men need to hear that. But some knots in our lives are emotional, not logical. You can't think your way out of everything. Some things need to be felt. It needs to be named or grieved. Because see, you got to feel some things. Because, let's face it, we've made mistakes. And you have to pay for the mistakes sometimes. You think about people who've been incarcerated. Yeah, they made a huge mistake. And you got to go to jail. You got to go to prison. Now, your time in there should be a time of reflecting. How did I get here? Why did I get here? What can I do when I get out of here? All the people that tried to help me before, I create a knot in my life. The football coach, the minister, my mama, the uncle, the next door neighbor, that teacher that believed in me. I didn't believe. I made this mess. So now I got to grieve this. I got to feel this. I got to name what this is. Okay, my mistake. I'm naming it. My mistake. And when I get out of here, I'm not coming back, because I'm going to put this in place of what I used to do. I'm going to change my thinking. I got an opportunity to do some reading in here. I got a chance to rediscover myself. I got a chance to come out and reposition myself. Because there are some people who have gone to prison and came out and done great things. One of the top chefs of a major hotel in Las Vegas is a convicted felon. And he's a top chef. Okay, there are people who've gone to prison. They come out and they're preaching the gospel. I mean, there are so many people have repositioned themselves out of prison. They took the time to work on themselves while they were there, and they came out better than ever before. And they realized that, number one, this whole idea of talking about some knots are emotional, not logical, because you see, it is not logical to think that somebody went to prison and they came out and they did better than people who've never been to prison. You can't take logic out of that, but we're not operating from the area of being logical. There are a lot of things that are not logical, but guess what? Great things happen. Knots can be untied, by being what you may say is unpredictable. I had no idea. But the idea that some knots are emotional. So I want you to take an inventory of yourself right now. If you have been operating out of your emotions, or how long have you been operating out of your emotions? And what has that gotten you? Where has that gotten you? What do you say when people say, oh, I'm emotional. Recognize that you're emotional and understand that there's a time that you have to come out of your emotions. And some knots are emotional, not logic. And you can't think your way out of every single thing. And it's important to know also, going back to the idea of people making excuses or afraid to challenge their own thinking. They want to stay stuck in their own way. Sometimes there's a knot that you may have created simply because of your stinking thinking, your irrational thinking. How many times have you destroyed great relationships because of your irrational thinking, your stinking thinking, lack of trust in people? You don't trust people, so you think, you cheat, so you think somebody else is cheating. Now, I mean, whatever it may be, your stinking thinking or irrational thinking has created a knot in your life, in your emotions, in your situation, in your relationship, on your job. You can't keep a job every year, every two, you're getting fired because of your emotions and your irrational thinking. And you being a horrible employee, but you're blaming employers. You get on the job, you train somebody. You've been there 15 years. You've trained two people, and they later became supervisors, and you feel like, I've been there 15 years, they've been there 5 years. It's racist, or they don't promote me. The system's against me. Could it be of your negative attitude? You created the knot with that. So with that said, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Did you know all disease begins in the gut? That's right. All disease begins right in your gut. You've got trillions of bacteria that influence your immune system, your energy, your emotional well-being. The good news is, whether you're 8 or 85 years old, you have a gut, and you need P84 in your system. P84 is 84 fruits and vegetables organically grown all over the world, designed to restore your gut. Probiotics, prebiotics, and postbiotics, all organically designed to help your gut thrive the way it's supposed to. Simply go to mauricemcdonald.net. mauricemcdonald.net, MauriceMcDonald.net, and learn more about the living well, eating smart, and feeling better with P84 in your system, all organically grown. Once again, go to mauricemcdonald.net and learn all about your gut microbiome. We're back. We're back, guys, on It's About You radio show, WDRB Media, the voice of the community. I'm Maurice McDonald, and this week, guys, I'm starting a series. If you just joined us, I'm starting a series called Untying Knots. Untying the Knots. And ladies and gentlemen, I told you before, if you've missed so far, please pick up right here where I just left off, and we're here talking about how to untie those knots and what the knots are. The first point I talked about was notice the knots before you pull it tighter. You can see something, it might be careful how you just pull things right away. Also, knots don't mean that you failed. That means that you cared. Also, stop yanking. Gentle attention works better. And we just talked about also, when we left off with, some knots are emotional, not logical. And on my next point I want to talk about, which goes in the same point of some of what I just talked about, was old habits tie today's knots. Oh my goodness. Somebody want to write that down, because I know you want me to say it again. I'm going to say it again. Old habits tie today's knots. Now, what am I talking about? I hear you saying, Maurice, what are you talking about? What do you mean old habits tie today's knots? Well, what I'm talking about is patterns from childhood, past relationships, or fear often loop back in new disguises. Think about it. From parents, from childhood, past relationships, or fear often loop back in new disguises. It's disguised as something else, which is why, let me go ahead and pull this point right here. I'm going to stand 10 toes down on this point right here. Counseling, therapy. Yes, I bring that up from time to time. You see, a lot of the patterns from childhood, past relationships, or fear often loop back into new disguises. Old habits tie today's knots. Let me tell you something. What you don't work on will work on you. You see, old patterns, childhood, past relationships, fear, they come back and they get in the way. They're old habits, but they're tying today's knots. There are people right now in their third marriage, and they can't figure out what they have been doing wrong because they've been too busy blaming the other person. And then you get into therapy, you start finding out that, wait a minute, this stuff was, you mean I had abandonment issues? I had issues from way back when I was a child? Absolutely. Because many men, I said this earlier, many men are little boys. I don't care if he's 6'3", 280 pounds, bench pressing 400 pounds, but he's an emotional weakling. Ladies, you can be the finest thing. You got the mother of the heart of Mother Teresa. You got the sweet spirit about you. You're beautiful. You got the money of Oprah. But deep down inside of you, there's a little girl that's still crying for daddy's attention. Oh, there's some issues from way back in the past that you haven't dealt with. You just said, time will heal all wounds. That part is part true. Finish the sentence. Prayer, time, and a good therapist will heal all wounds. You're exactly right. I believe that is so true. So remember, old habits tie today's knots. And if you sit here and be serious about it and do an inventory, go do an inventory of your past, about relationships, your childhood, the fear you had. Has it interfered with some decisions you've made? Has it been disguised and it keeps coming back up? Yeah, that's huge right there. And I want you to take that to heart. It is important. And in order for that to work, going back also to the meeting I had at my place of worship I was telling you about, that some of the notes I took tied right into what I was going to be sharing this morning, was the idea that seeds are no good unless they're in the dirt. And not in the farmer's bag. You see, seeds, unless they're in the dirt, don't work. Come on, you got to put the seeds in the farmer got the seeds in the bag, but as long as they're in the bag, there's no harvest. You see, when you're in the dirt, it tastes like dirt. It looks like dirt. It will feel like dirt. And when it rains, it becomes mud. Oh, that is so nasty. You're exactly right. You won't wear your Sunday best in the mud. But let me show how this ties into what I just said. You see, those old habits from childhood, past relationships, the fear that keep looping back, meaning you got to plant that seed into dirt. If you got the bad seed, the negative seed from the past, in the dirt, yes. And we don't want to go in the dirt. Counseling sometimes gets dirty. You got to go in the dirt to put new seeds in. You see, the old seeds you've been planting in the dirt, yeah, it's in the dirt, and that's how they grew out of the dirt. So I'm telling you now, by planting new seeds, putting new seeds into the dirt, because it's going to be ugly. Yeah, that's why counseling sometimes can get emotional. It can get tearful. It can bring out some stuff, and everybody, just leave that in the past, and just leave it in the past. Let me tell you something. You keep putting a negative seed in the past, it's got to come back up. That's got seed, time, and harvest. So what you plant in the dirt and you fertilize it, it's going to come up. And so sometimes that knot, the old habit, is that old seed you've been planting for years. It was planted in you sometimes from parents. You may not have had the best parents. Your parents did not model good behavior. Your parents may have been abusive. Your parents may have been sexually abusive towards you. You may have had that dirty uncle. You may have had that dirty aunt, that you were molested as a child. You grew up in foster care. You went from group home to group home. Whatever it may be, I'm just letting you know that knot, that old habit, ties the knots. You may need the therapy. You never worked through it. You just think everybody grew up that way. No. And you're right. And it was not your fault what happened to you. It was not your fault. I'm telling you, go get the help, because, that seed that grew up, seed, unless it's in the dirt, take it out of the farmer's bag. Take it out of your mind of saying, I'm just going to forget about it. You've been drinking your way through, thinking you can drink through it and whatever else you can get through. No, 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 no. You see, that's an old habit that ties today's knots. So if you want to make some changes, you have to start within yourself. That pattern of childhood, past relationships, the fears that keep looping back in your life every 5 to 10 years and every eight years, and you become the same miserable, horrible parent to your children that you grew up in. And that means sometimes that you may need to stop and get that help and go back and apologize to your children. Oh, yeah. Oh, do you know adults can apologize? Yeah. How do children learn to apologize? When parents learn to apologize. Break that cycle. Old habits. Keep tying today's knots. Now, my next point. Untying isn't about speed. It's about direction. You see, untying the knot. See, we live in an instant gratification world. I want instant gratification. Show it to me. I want instant. We got microwave popcorn. We want this, we want that. By the way, that microwave popcorn is not good for you simply because of the chemicals on that bag tied together, but that's another story. Get regular popcorn if you want to get regular popcorn. Yes, that's a plug for somebody to hear that. It's important. We want instant gratification. Untying knots isn't about speed. It's about direction. Progress is measured by clarity, not how fast the knot disappears. Progress is measured by clarity, and sometimes it takes time to get it through. That instant gratification where you get frustrated and you start pulling it, trying to break the knot, and you made it tighter. Not about speed that the knot will disappear. Untying knot isn't about fast. It's what direction are you going? What direction are you going in your life? Because you want it. And so many times, as a matter of fact, there's a colleague of mine who called me the other day. He knows my background is in counseling, and I was a former high school counselor, and he was an amazing, amazing teacher there. And long story short, he called me and reached out to me and pretty much was saying that, and this is not an indictment on young people altogether, but understand, sometimes people get out of college, young people today, and they think that they're supposed to, because I paid the way, I went through 4 years and got my degree, and I can't find a job in my field, and they get frustrated, and they're working at a job they don't like, and they get frustrated. They get upset. They think the world is supposed to hand it to them. No, you got to grind. And oftentimes you got to go back and get some specialty, some extra training. But sometimes you got to take a job you don't want right now till you get the ones you want. Because sometimes, 4-year degree, people often choose careers that it takes more education to get in. Like, for example, I want to get a degree in psychology. I tell my students all the time, then you don't want a job right away. You need to specialize. People think I'm going to get a degree in this and then I'm going to walk the path. It's going to be easy for me. No, it's not easy. It's not about speed. Anyway, the young man his son got a little upset and was facing a little bit of depression, and so therefore he wanted me to refer a good therapist for him, and I did. But I bring that up simply because oftentimes even grown adults who realize something, that you may need to go back to school, reposition yourself, rechange yourself. It's not about the speed. Untying the knot isn't about speed, but direction. You may be changing directions. I had the privilege and honor of educating people who are non-traditional students, over 35, 40 years of age and 50, 60 years old. They've been in careers for so long, and now that industry is no longer fulfilling them, or they got laid off and they want to reposition themselves, change direction, so to speak. They got life experience, and which is powerful, but they need to change directions. And that is so powerful. And that progress is measured by clarity, not by speed. The knot won't come out overnight. Not how fast the knot disappears. Getting clarity. And it may take a little time. Take this class. People have 4 years degree in one thing, and now they want to do something totally different. They always wanted to be a chef. They always wanted to do hair. They want to be a cosmetology. They got a master's degree, but now they want to do massage therapy, and now they also want to do become a hairstylist. Well, guess what? They can do that. But guess what? That may take a little time. Untying that knot isn't about the speed. And now, keep in mind, the frustrations and anger and disappointments will all come with that knot. There's a lot of things, financial difficulties for a minute. Yeah, that's part of that struggle, part of that journey. But the knot is being cleared. It's being untangled. You're untying the knot when you discover what direction you want to go to, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm here to tell you today the joy I get out of sharing this information, because it's blessing me. Because this information that I get, I sit down and I try to put some direction to it so that this can impact the lives of individuals. Because I don't take this platform lightly. As I say, each and every time I get a chance to get behind the mic and share this information, because I've been a public servant for 4 decades, helping individuals. And I do believe that my Creator has given me a gift. I'm not special, but I'm special to Him. But I just want to talk to normal people and share this so that people can stop struggling and find their purpose in their life and be able to untie some knots that they have. And that is so powerful. So untying the knots itself isn't about the speed, but the direction. And if you're going the wrong direction, here's a good thing about going the wrong direction. There's a stop sign. Eventually, you're going to run into a stop sign. And now you get a chance to make a U-turn and go back in the right direction. Discover your direction. Discover your gift. Discover all of that. Because progress is measured by clarity, not how fast the knot disappears. Because if you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you arrive? So once you got clarity, now you can move in the right direction and get that knot untangled in your life. Now, my next point. Ask what part in this, without self-blame. Ask what part in this did you take, but it's not blaming yourself, without self-blame. But what part in this did you play? Ask yourself the question. What part of this did I play? You're acknowledging it, but you're not always coming out blaming yourself. I'm not talking about you to beat yourself up. Listen, you made the mistake. Get up, dust yourself off. As I always give the analogy, when you rode the bicycle, you fell off a couple times. You knew what you needed to do, but you didn't pedal fast enough once those training wheels, because it's about balance. It's about learning the balance and get the speed going, and now you got it. But you fell off a couple times. You got back up. So I'm telling you right now, if you've made a mess and got that knot all crazy, guess what? Get up and dust yourself off. Responsibility gives you power. Shame takes it away. See, this is not about shaming anybody. So when I say what you caused, I'm not asking you, I'm not telling you to shame yourself. Because my purpose is not to bring shame, to have you feel shame. But you got to ask yourself, responsibility gives you power. But the moment you take responsibility for what you did and step up and step out on faith and tell yourself, look yourself in the mirror and just tell yourself, I'm going a different direction. I created this mess. I'm going to work my way through this mess and get out of this mess. I'm going the opposite direction. That is important when you realize that. What part in this? What if I repeat it? What am I continually to repeat over and over again? What am I putting in front of me to intentionally block myself? Is it my attitude? Yeah. Is it the fact that I won't apologize? Is it the fact that I won't ask for forgiveness? You see, forgiveness is a part of it. And the first part is forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for whatever happened. Forgiving yourself of what you did or what you said to create the environment you're in right now. Forgiving yourself and asking yourself, what can I do differently? What should I do differently? Who can I talk to about this situation? I need to be in a judgment-free zone. And it goes right back to therapy again. Judgment-free zone. And when you get there and realize, I thought by now I'm 35 years old. I thought by now I would be able to retire. I thought I was doing this. Or I thought I'd be married. I was getting there 30 years old. My biological clock was ticking. I'm talking to my sisters right now. I thought I would be married by now. I'm not married. So the first guy that came along that looked promising and everything else, you jumped in and got into a relationship and got married or had a baby, and you're unhappy. And that person was the worst person for you. All I'm saying is forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Don't blame yourself, because you're going to have enough people going to tighten that knot for you. Told you. Had no business marrying them in the first place. They're going to come at you hard. Yeah, you picked the worst thing, and you're supposed to be got all this education, and you picked until you picked, you picked a mess. Keep in mind, it's enough people that'll try to throw blame on you. Don't do the blame on yourself. But you got to ask yourself, what's my part in this? But I'm not blaming myself. I did the best. My thinking at the time may have been difficult, may have been wrong, maybe inappropriate. Maybe I had some dysfunctional thinking. And that's another thing. Stop. Some knots you create by trying to put limitations. By a certain date, I got to have this. By a certain date, I got to have that. Stop doing that. That's a setup for a knot. That's a setup. By 25, I need to be married. By 30, I'm going to have a house. By 35, I'm going to have 3 kids. And by that, I'm going to have a big house. All that planning and mapping you got, okay, was your creator part of this? Or this is what you going ahead of your creator? See, sometimes we create a knot by getting ahead of God. Hello. You create a knot by getting ahead of God. Yeah. Absolutely. That part is going to be powerful, because I'm going to get into that probably next week from the spiritual and mental health side of this whole piece. But for right now, I'm setting the foundation for it right now. And you got to ask yourself, what part in this did I play? My next point, some knots loosen when you stop holding both ends. Ooh. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting blessed by this. I hope you all are getting blessed by this, because as I was putting this to pen, I kept thinking about this and with God's guidance and just sharing this with me. And I just, my shows are not scripted. So therefore, when I'm, when I'm talking, I've got some things written down, but then when I hear them again, it hits me personally. But the idea of it says some knots loosen when you stop holding both ends, letting go of control, approval, or the need to be right is sometimes the solution. Oh my gosh, the years I did domestic violence counseling, for those 13 years, the batterer intervention program, there were so many men tied up in knots emotionally. Big grown men, but they were emotional weaklings because they wanted to control everything. They needed to be right about everything. And I would say to them, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? You choose. Do you want to be happy? Because that's another adult that you're trying to control. She had a daddy already. And I also did the women's group, so there were women who saw their partners too. Because I just heard somebody probably say, "Why he only talking about why you don't talking about men?" Because 95% of the victims are female, and the perpetrators are males. So that's why I mentioned this. But there were so many men who themselves, were they just couldn't let go of what was happening. They wanted to be right. And it says some knots loosen when you stop holding both ends, letting go of control, approval. There's so many people got to have approval of their parents. There's so many people that want to change careers, but because my daddy told me you got to do this, you got to do, your mama told you, yeah, you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be this, and this is a powerful story that I heard by, you can Google and find this person's story you want. It was her name is Gloria Mayfield Banks. Gloria Mayfield Banks. If you Google, I'll tell you her story. This was a woman that was married and she had I think, a divorce, and she was a single mom, and she had a degree. Her mom had sent her to Her dad saved money for them to go to Harvard University. She was Harvard graduate. So great things are expected of her. And she needed $500. And she stepped out of the box. And somebody introduced her to Mary Kay. And she just wanted to make about $500 extra a month. And she couldn't afford to do other things she was doing. She's part-time job. She had small kids. So she just started selling a little makeup and some lipstick, those kind of things. And when Mama found out, oh my goodness, see, Mama wanted approval. She was selling, her mom went off on her. Your dad and I didn't spend all this money to send you to Harvard for you to be peddling some blanky blank lipstick. And Mom did not approve. But unfortunately, she didn't listen to Mama. She wasn't listening to Mama's approval. Long story short, the woman's retired from Mary Kay now. I believe last count, she was responsible for 17 people or 15 people or so to be millionaires. So she's a multi-millionaire herself. And guess what? Mom joined her finally. Okay. And hey, Mom wasn't stupid. Okay. But my point, I tell you this story because sometimes you got to step out of the box and do the listen, you got to do sometimes unconventional things to get unconventional results. You got to do unconventional things to make unconventional income. See, stop letting people control you. Some knots loosen when you stop holding both ends. Stop waiting for people to approve you what you do, or the need for you to be right. Sometimes letting go is the solution. Letting go, the day you stop letting go of people or what people are going to say about you or think about you, your knot can start to unloosen because you're bound by somebody else's opinion. You're bound by their thought process. You're bound by their vision of you. Letting go of all of that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beginning of you loosening that knot. You can't hold both ends and keep pulling on them. Let go of that control. Stop wanting to be right. Ladies and gentlemen, men, stop trying to be right. And by the way, let me talk to those Christian men. Stop using scriptures in there to hold your wife down. Yeah, you the head of the household, but guess what? She's the neck. Okay? You're a joint equal. Stop trying to use biblical principles to try to control your wife. She may be a loving wife, but she don't like how you treat her. You always in the church. You always got this. You focus, but you forgot how to love her. Yeah, okay. It's important to know that sometimes you got to let go of that control. It's important that you do this. My next point. Knots reveal where boundaries are missing. Knots reveal where boundaries are missing. Overcommitment, people pleasing, and silence often twist things tight. Overcommitment, people pleasing, and silence often twist things tight. Knots reveal where boundaries are missing. You need boundaries. When you sometimes don't have boundaries, guess what? Things get in a knot. Guess what? In relationship, there needs to be boundaries. Going back to that again, there needs to be boundaries. Yes, you are a couple, but guess what? That individual has a right to pursue the things they want to pursue. How many times in relationships people are bound because somebody wants to go back to school? Somebody wants to do something to start a side business. And start side business means in the beginning, that's going to take 18 to 24 months of hard work. Because most businesses in the beginning, you struggle. But behind the scene, all they hear is negativity. You ain't got no time for me. You ain't got this. Why you ain't this? I'm trying to build something here. I'm building. They want a landscape business. That means after work, they're cutting grass. Or they're doing that. They're good with automotive. They're going to school. They always want to be a mechanic. So they're going to the college or they're going to learn how to be a mechanic. And that means they're in school. And then they got an internship. But give them 18 to 24 months. Watch what they're doing. They're building something. But in the midst of it, you got to be able to let people know that overcommitment and people pleasing and silence often twist things tighter. Give them space. You see, give them the boundaries to go out and do something big if they want to. And stop putting the pressure on them. You got to have boundaries in the whole lot of things too. When you're going into boundaries, I should know everything about you. Yeah, there's some things you should know, absolutely. But those boundaries of I want to know who your friends are. I want to control everything. Wow, how you got friends? I don't know, but what's going on here? But listen, understanding, and also overcommitment. If you're in a relationship, don't overcommit. This goes back to the church again. If you're going to school full time, you're working a part-time job, and you're going to church, and you're trying to wear too many hats at one time, that creates a strain on the relationship. That's hard. That knot can be revealed where boundaries are missing. You need to have boundaries. Boundaries are important. So I want you to take a second here and think about what are some boundaries that you don't have, or what are some boundaries that you have that are not good, a relationship that's not good. So understand that all that is very, very important. That knots reveal where boundaries are missing. And oftentimes when you start thinking about the knots in your life when it comes to relationships, that part is so important for you to understand. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Did you know all disease begins in the gut? That's right. All disease begins right in your gut. You've got trillions of bacteria that influence your immune system, your energy, your emotional well-being. The good news is, whether you're 8 or 85 years old, you have a gut, and you need P84 in your system. P84 is 84 fruits and vegetables organically grown all over the world designed to restore your gut. Probiotics, prebiotics, and postbiotics, all organically designed to help your gut thrive the way it's supposed to. Simply go to MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net, MauriceMcDonald.net, and learn more about the living well, eating smart, and feeling better with P84 in your system, all organically grown. Once again, go to MauriceMcDonald.net and learn all about your gut microbiome. We're back, guys, on WDRBmedia.com. The It's About You radio show, Maurice McDonald. My, this time has gone by so quickly. If you just joined us, we've been here talking about untying knots, untying the knots in our lives, things that are creating some issues for us. This is going to be a series, and this is the first one that I'm tapping into this. If you miss any of the show, you please go to YouTube, my YouTube channel. It's About You radio channel on YouTube, and learn on any past shows you may have missed. But I'm going to continue with this knot. I just finished talking about the knots that we have. It says knots reveal where boundaries are missing. My next point is you don't untie everything alone. You heard me mention about counseling, those kind of things. Some knots you cannot untie alone. Pride keeps knots tight. Honest help loosens them. You got to be some honest help will loosen them. Pride will keep the knots tight. Well, I don't need to talk to nobody. You suffer. You've been suffering for something. You've been dealing with something for 5 to 10 to 8 years, struggling with it, or 5 months, and now you're gaining weight, you're losing weight, your hair's coming out, all kind of issues. You're angry all the time. Sometimes you need to lower the pride and go talk to somebody. Now, do not get on social media. Let me pause right here. Go somewhere and sit down. Shut up. Stay off social media. Stop. Social media is not your therapy. Stop putting all your business on. Listen, that's social media. Stop. Go talk to somebody. And don't go talk this to a friend who going to tell you, if I was you, I'd do. Go to somebody that you don't trust. Somebody not going to put your business on social media. Somebody not going to backstab you. And honest therapy will go help you. Sometimes 4 or 5 sessions can make a big difference. Oh, you may need to go once every 2 or 3 months. Then go. Do what you got to do to help you. Untying that everything can't be done alone. My next point. Not every knot needs to be untied. Some need to be cut. Knowing when to walk away is a form of wisdom, not failure. Ooh, some knots don't need to be untied. Some knots need to be cut. Cut the losses. Walk away. If you're in a domestic violence situation, you've been being beat on a regular basis. You can't help him. You can't help her. You can't help them. The end of the day, sometimes you got to walk away from certain things. Cut your losses. I'm not advocating divorce. Understand, I'm not advocating any of this, but I'm talking specifically to individuals who are being hurt emotionally, physically, financially. All of those things. Your children are being harmed. Everything is happening. Not all knots need to be untied. They need to be cut. Knowing when to walk away. Know when to run. You know the song. You got to know when to hold them. Know when to walk away. Come on. And my next point. A looser life isn't perfect. It's flexible. The goal isn't to have a knot-free life, but one where tangles don't steal your peace. You see, you're not going to have a knot-free life. Things will come at us. Things will come into our life. People will come into our life, and they will come into our life for a reason or a season. Situations happen. But the goal isn't a knot-free life, but one where tangles don't steal our peace or don't steal our joy. And that goes back to that relationship one. That goes back into that situation where it needs to be cut if you're in that domestic violence situation. I keep going back to that because I know that women who are listening to this, if there are 4 women listening to this, one of them is a victim of domestic violence. 1 out of every 4 women are part of DV. And they're in a situation that is a major knot in their life where I can't leave. My pastor say I need to stay. Is your pastor getting beat? Huh? My mama said I need to stay. Well, is your mama? Well, he only beats me on the weekend. Well, there's 52 weekends in a year. So my point to you is there comes a time when sometimes you got, and by the way, leaving is the most, understand when you do leave, that'll be the most violent time. I'm going to preface that. I'm not just telling you just to leave. I want you to know, have a plan. You don't just do something. You got a plan that you do things like that. But other than that, it doesn't have to always be DV. It doesn't have to be. But I know I've did that for 13 years, and my heart goes out to women who are involved in that. So my last point for this week is a looser life isn't perfect. It's flexible. The goal isn't not to have a knot-free life, but the tangles don't steal your peace or don't steal your joy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pick this up next week. I'm going to pick up right where I left off next week with this whole series about untying the knots in our life. This has been an awesome first session for me. I want you to go to mauricemcdonald.net, learn all about your amazing microbiome gut health. And we're going to be back next week, same time, guys. Go to my YouTube channel, Maurice McDonald. Follow me on Instagram, Maurice McDonald 24, or also go to the It's About You radio show on my YouTube channel. We're going to see you next week because we're going to be in the building.